2003, Yang Liwei became the first Chinese astronaut to travel to space aboard the Shenzhou 5 spacecraft. The mission marked China's entry into the exclusive club of nations with manned spaceflight capabilities. Shenzhou 5 was launched on October 15, 2003, from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center and orbited the Earth 14 times before safely returning to Earth the next day. The mission was deemed a great success, further advancing China's space program and solidifying its position as a major player in space exploration. During the mission, Yang Liwei reported hearing a mysterious knocking sound on the exterior of the spacecraft. He described the noise as someone knocking the body of the spaceship, similar to the sound of a hammer hitting an iron bucket. The origin of the sound remains unexplained, but there have been several theories put forth. One possibility is that the sound was caused by the contraction and expansion of the spacecraft's metal body due to temperature changes in space. Another potential explanation is that the sound resulted from space debris or micrometeoroids hitting the spacecraft's exterior. This is the official report. The following report is supposedly part of ultra-confidential documents pertaining to Shenzhou 5 mission written by Yang Liwei himself. The report details what happened during the mission in vivid detail, as experienced by the Chinese astronaut. The document's authenticity, as well as the whistleblower's identity, are still uncertain.
The following is the accurate recording of the events that took place during Shenzhou 5. I did my best to record everything as it happened, although I may have left out some details. This can be the result of the psychological-emotional trauma I have endured during the event, but I can vouch for the authenticity of what I do remember. Liftoff and orbital insertion. October 15, 2003, the day I had been preparing for my entire life. As the first Chinese astronaut to venture into the great unknown, I felt a mix of fear, awe, excitement, and dread. The weight of this mission was not lost on me. My training, my years of dedication, all culminated in this one moment. We arrived at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the early morning hours. The crisp air and the dim light of dawn filled me with anticipation. I was to board the Shenzhou 5 spacecraft, a marvel of Chinese engineering, and embark on a journey few have ever experienced. I strapped myself into the seat and waited for the countdown to begin. My heart raced as I went through the final checks and communications with Mission Control. I've been training for this mission for years, yet nothing can really prepare you for the feeling of lifting off of the Earth's surface. The countdown echoed in my ears as the engines roared to life, propelling me upward with unimaginable force. The G-forces pressed me into my seat, and I couldn't help but think of the immense power beneath me, driving me towards the heavens. I felt a surge of pride knowing that my country was capable of such an incredible feat. As I reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the violent shaking of the spacecraft subsided, and the force that had pinned me to my seat gradually dissipated. I was now in orbit, floating weightlessly, and the vastness of space lay before me. I could see the curve of the Earth, a sight so few have had the privilege of witnessing firsthand. The beauty of our blue planet, contrasted with the cold, dark void of space, was awe-inspiring. I spent the first couple of hours of my mission adjusting to the weightlessness and the confined space of the capsule. The sensations were unlike anything I had experienced before, even during the countless hours of training in the simulators back on Earth. The reality of being in space was far more profound than any simulation could replicate. My fear and dread began to ebb away as I acclimatized to my surroundings, replaced by a deep sense of wonder and curiosity. As I peered out of the small window, I was struck by the vastness of the cosmos, the seemingly infinite expanse of stars stretching out before me. In that moment, I felt both incredibly small and immensely significant, a part of something much greater than myself. As the first Chinese astronaut in space, I knew the importance of my mission. My every move was being watched, recorded, and analyzed. I had a strict schedule to adhere to, and my days were filled with various tasks and experiments. I needed to make the most of every moment. In those first few hours, I conducted a series of tests to assess the performance of the spacecraft and its systems. I monitored the life support and navigational equipment, ensuring that everything was functioning as it should. It was vital that I maintained constant communication with mission control, relaying information and receiving guidance as I carried out my tasks. As I settled into my routine, I began to feel more comfortable in my new environment. The initial trepidation and awe that had accompanied my journey into space began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and determination. I knew that I was not only representing my country, but I was also a part of humanity's ongoing quest for knowledge and understanding. With each passing moment, I felt more and more at ease in the vast expanse of space. I focused on my mission and the tasks at hand, knowing that I was making history and contributing to the advancement of human exploration. Despite the seemingly endless list of tasks and experiments, I couldn't help but steal glances out of the window, marveling at the breathtaking views that enveloped me. The Earth, a jewel of blue and green, spun beneath me, a constant reminder of the world I had left behind and the people I was representing on this mission. The first several hours were a whirlwind of activity, and as the time went by, I found myself growing accustomed to my new home among the stars. The mixture of emotions that had consumed me during the initial stages of my journey, the fear, the awe, the excitement, had given way to a sense of calm determination. I knew that sleep would be a challenge in this weightless environment, but it was essential for maintaining my mental and physical well-being during the mission. I lay down in my sleeping bag, suspended in midair, and closed my eyes. In the silence of the capsule, I listened to the gentle hum of the life support systems and felt the subtle vibrations of the spacecraft as it hurtled through the void. In that moment, drifting between wakefulness and sleep, I couldn't help but think of the incredible journey I had embarked upon. I was filled with a sense of awe and humility, knowing that I was experiencing something that so few people ever would. I was truly grateful for the opportunity to represent my country and to contribute to humanity's ongoing quest to explore the cosmos. And so, as the Earth continued to spin beneath me, and the stars stretched out into the infinite expanse of space, I drifted off to sleep, eager to face the challenges and discoveries that lay ahead. The knock. I woke up approximately 3 hours later and took approximately 15 minutes to collect my composure and thoughts. I then got to work immediately, knowing that time was one of my most precious assets. After all, my resources were limited, and I only had approximately 21 hours to meet the mission's goals. I was in the middle of filling out a report and checking some sensor misfiring when I first heard it. The sound was unmistakable, 3 sharp consecutive knocks, as if someone was hitting a metal barrel with a wooden hammer. It seemed to come from the outside of the spacecraft, and I couldn't help but jump in surprise, an instinctive and understandable reaction. After all, you don't really get too many visitors in outer space. My initial thought was that it must have been some sort of space debris colliding with the ship's hull. It wasn't an uncommon occurrence. After all, I quickly dismissed the sound and returned to my work, my heart rate slowly returning to normal. But then, several minutes later, it happened again. 3 more knocks, identical to the ones I had heard before. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I needed to find the source of the sound and determine if it posed any threat to the mission or my safety. I began by thoroughly examining the spacecraft's exterior through the available cameras, searching for any signs of damage or debris. Despite my efforts, I couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. I then turned my attention to the interior, scanning every inch of the capsule for any potential causes. Still, nothing seemed amiss. As I continued my search, my emotions began to shift. The initial surprise gave way to confusion and then to a growing sense of unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, even though I had no concrete evidence to back up the feeling. The knocks were unlike anything I had ever encountered during my training or previous experiences in space. I tried to stay rational and focused on the task at hand. After all, I was a trained astronaut, and I had faced countless challenges throughout my career. I told myself that there must be a logical explanation for the sounds, and that I simply needed to keep looking. But as the minutes turned to hours, my emotions began to get the better of me. Fear crept into my thoughts, slowly gnawing away at my composure. The isolation of space, which had once filled me with awe and wonder, now seemed oppressive and suffocating. As I sat there, alone in the silence of the capsule, I couldn't help but think of the stories I had heard of other astronauts experiencing strange phenomena in space. Some had reported hearing unexplained noises, while others claimed to have seen mysterious objects or lights. I had always dismissed these stories as mere fabrications or exaggerations, but now I wasn't so sure. And then it happened again. 3 more knocks, louder and more insistent than before. The event. My heart pounded in my chest as I peered through the small window, desperately trying to catch a glimpse of whatever it was that had been haunting me for hours. I strained my eyes, attempting to make out the shape of the shadow that seemed to dance just out of my field of vision. It was big, that much was certain, and it seemed to be moving in tandem with my spacecraft. As I leaned closer to the window, my breath fogging up the glass, a brilliant flash of white light suddenly engulfed my vision. I recoiled in shock, my heart racing faster than ever before. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was the terrifying sound of the capsule door wrenching open, followed by the deafening roar of air rushing out of the ship. The depressurization was violent, and I felt my body being jerked with extreme force, after which everything went dark. When I came to, I found myself in an alien environment that was unlike anything I ever experienced. I was lying on a soft table in a small, sterile white room, unable to move a muscle. My body felt numb and paralyzed, as though it belonged to someone else. I tried to move my fingers, but they refused to respond to my commands, as if they had a mind of their own. My eyes darted around the room, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The walls were a stark, unblemished white, devoid of any features or decorations. The only source of light was a single, blindingly bright bulb that hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows on the floor below. It was as if I had been transported to another dimension entirely, one that was both terrifyingly foreign and eerily familiar at the same time. I was overwhelmed by a feeling of dread and helplessness, as if I had been stripped of all agency and control. The air was thick with an unnerving sense of uncanniness, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My pulse raced as I realized that I was completely alone in this strange, sterile environment with no means of escape or communication. That's when I saw them. 3 short beings with gray skin, large black eyes, and oversized heads. They hovered over me, their cold, emotionless expression sending shivers down my spine. It was as though they were studying me, as if I were some sort of specimen in a lab experiment. I tried to call out to them, to plead for my release, but my voice was nothing more than a weak, strangled whisper that died in my throat. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that I was at their mercy. The feeling of dread intensified as I felt the cold touch of what seemed like surgical instruments on my abdomen. I tried to scream, to call out for help, but no sound emerged from my throat. It was as if my vocal cords had been severed, leaving me unable to communicate my terror and pain. As I lay there, helpless and exposed, I couldn't help but wonder what these beings wanted from me. Were they conducting some sort of experiment, seeking to learn more about the human species? Or were they simply toying with me, reveling in my fear and confusion? The thought sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through my veins as I realized just how vulnerable I truly was. Suddenly, one of the gray beings gripped my head firmly, its cold fingers digging into my skin. I could only watch in horror as another forced a black tube into my mouth and down my trachea, invading my very being. The sensation was unlike anything I had ever felt before, a mixture of shock, pain, and a terrible suffocating helplessness. As the tube snaked its way deeper into my throat, I felt my consciousness slipping away. The return. As I gradually returned to reality, I found myself once again within the familiar confines of my spacecraft. The capsule appeared to be completely sealed, as if nothing out of the ordinary had transpired. Doubt and confusion clouded my thoughts as I struggled to make sense of the bizarre events I had just experienced. Tentatively, I touched my abdomen, half expecting to find evidence of the invasive procedure I'd seemingly undergone. To my surprise, my skin was smooth and unblemished, betraying no sign of injury. I swallowed, feeling the lingering soreness in my throat, a visceral reminder of the mysterious ordeal I had endured. My heart raced as I cautiously approached the window, scanning the void outside for any sign of the strange beings or their vessel. But there was nothing to be found, save for the breathtaking sight of Earth, its blue and green hues slowly revolving in the distance. The absence of any evidence only added to my growing sense of unease and uncertainty. I glanced at the clock, only to discover that a full 6 hours had passed since I had lost consciousness. In my mind, the surreal encounter had lasted no more than a couple of minutes, yet somehow, almost half a day had slipped away. What had happened during that missing time? Was it all just a dream? Or had I truly been taken? Shaken and disoriented, I hesitated to contact Earth. How could I possibly explain my inexplicable lapse in communication? In the end, I decided to keep my experience a secret, not wanting to reveal something that I couldn't fully understand myself. At least not while the mission was still underway. With a strained voice, I informed Mission Control that I had unintentionally fallen asleep and lost track of time. As I prepared for re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, the vivid memory of the gray beings and their sterile white chamber haunted my every thought. I couldn't help but wonder what their intentions had been. Were they studying me? Experimenting on me? Was it all just a hallucination? The questions tormented me, leaving me with an unshakable sense of unease. As my spacecraft began its descent towards Earth, I found myself reflecting on the profound impact the experience had had on me. Though I couldn't be certain what had transpired, I couldn't deny that it had changed me in some fundamental way. The overwhelming emotions that had gripped me throughout the ordeal, the terror, the helplessness, the vulnerability remained etched in my mind, as vivid and raw as when I had first experienced them. The Earth's atmosphere began to envelop my capsule, and I braced myself for the jarring impact that would follow. My thoughts raced, filled with a mixture of dread and anticipation, as I contemplated the implications of my mysterious encounter. Would I ever be able to find answers to the questions that now plagued me? Or would I be forever haunted by the chilling memory of those cold black eyes and emotionless expressions? As the capsule hurtled towards the surface, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief mixed with my lingering fear. Soon, I would be back on solid ground, surrounded by familiar faces and the comforting routine of daily life. Yet I knew that I could never truly escape the experience that had forever altered my perception of the universe and my place within it. As I touched down on Earth, I was filled with a strange combination of gratitude and trepidation. While I was grateful to be home, the unsettling memory of my encounter with the unknown continued to cast a shadow over my heart. Though I longed for answers, I couldn't help but fear what they might reveal about the nature of our existence and the unfathomable mysteries that lay hidden in the vastness of space. As I emerged from the capsule and was greeted by the team of engineers and scientists, I couldn't help but feel a sense of detachment. Though their smiles and words of congratulations washed over me, my thoughts remained consumed by the enigmatic experience I had undergone. I knew that I couldn't keep my encounter a secret forever, but for the time being, I chose to keep it buried deep within me, locked away from the scrutiny of the world. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself becoming increasingly withdrawn, my thoughts consumed by the enigma that had become my constant companion. The once comforting routine of my life now felt hollow and empty, as if I was simply going through the motions. The joy and excitement that had once defined my career as an astronaut had been replaced by a pervasive sense of dread and unease. Yet, even in the face of such profound disquiet, I knew that I could not simply abandon my search for the truth. I needed to understand what had happened to me and why. And so, with a determination born of desperation, I resolved to confront the unknown head-on, seeking answers to the questions that had come to define my existence. I write this report as testament to events that have no immediate explanation and for which I have no evidence. The exterior cameras ceased functioning for a period of 6 hours, which coincides with the time lapse of the event. No electrical malfunction has been identified as the cause for the blackout, but no other explanation is on the table either. I leave it to the experts to brainstorm the event and dig for potential explanations. As for me, my official position is that what I've experienced was 100% real.
The Shenzhou 5 mission came to a triumphant close as the spacecraft completed its re-entry and landed safely back on Earth. The historic mission marked a significant milestone for China's ambitious space program, showcasing the nation's technical prowess and placing it alongside an elite group of countries with manned spaceflight capabilities. The successful landing of the Shenzhou 5 capsule was met with widespread celebration and acclaim. As the first Chinese astronaut in space, Yang Liwei had captured the hearts and minds of millions, inspiring a new generation of aspiring astronauts and scientists. The mission was lauded for its flawless execution and the incredible accomplishments of both Yang Liwei and the team behind him. Despite the overwhelming success of the mission, there were still some minor anomalies that were noted by the recovery team. Upon extraction from the capsule, Yang Liwei was found to have bloody lips, which the medical staff attributed to the rough landing. However, this minor injury did little to dampen the enthusiasm surrounding the mission, as the overall health and condition of the astronaut were deemed satisfactory. In the time since the Shenzhou 5 mission, various accounts of astronauts hearing strange noises while in space have emerged, adding a layer of intrigue to humanity's forays into the cosmos. Some astronauts have reported hearing inexplicable knocks, while others have even claimed to hear music. The source of these mysterious sounds remains a topic of speculation and debate within the scientific community, with theories ranging from natural phenomena to psychological factors. Though these strange auditory experiences have been reported by other astronauts, none of them have shared a similar experience to that of Yang Liwei. His encounter remains unique and unexplained, fueling further curiosity and intrigue regarding the unknown aspects of space travel.